Hey, it's Theo and welcome to my 1 minute card reviews where I'll be reviewing every card in 1 minute or less. And today we will be going over the rogue cards. And yeah, these rogue cards so far have been the most difficult ones to review because it feels like, yeah, they can either be broken like rogue cards usually are, or yeah, they can be close to unplayable. Anyway, let's get started with the very first card, which is Mimicry, a 1 mana spell. Your opponent draws 2 cards, you get copies of them. So yeah, giving your opponents cards, yeah, generally it's pretty bad unless you can really like burn cards or make them go into fatigue. But yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen with the current sets. However, yeah, you do get 2 copies of them, which can be quite nice. Just get 2 nice cards, and you know what your opponent has. But the problem is, yeah, you get 2 copies of cards that might just be completely unplayable, right? You might be playing against a Zerg deck, a Terran deck, like you get Starport, and yeah, you get some 2 starship pieces, and they're not that great if you just get 2 of them. And I think that's going to be the problem with this card is that, yeah, you might get 2 completely useless cards for 1 mana while giving your opponent those cards, and that's just not good. But forcing your opponent to draw cards for very little, there's some potential here, I think. So I'll be giving this card 2 stars. And then we have Nightmare Fuel, and I'm not talking about my gameplay, I'm talking about this 1 mana spell. Discover a copy of a minion in your opponent's deck, combo with a Dark Gift. So again, yeah, like last cards, you get a card from your opponent. This time though, your opponent doesn't get them and you get to discover them. And yeah, discovering random cards makes them a lot better than just getting any randomly. And with a combo, you get the Dark Gift. So yeah, it's not as great on turn 1, but yeah, later on it should be pretty easy for Rogue to combo with all the cheap cards they have. So then you get a copy of an opponent's minion, but then you might also get a card that's, yeah, a minion that's completely unplayable, something that you never want to play or that just doesn't work with your deck as a rogue, and yeah, that's a problem that cards usually are expected not to combine with, so that can be a bit better if you have like a Shadow Step on a really good Battle Cry from another class to get a minion from an opponent, and yeah, there isn't too much you can combo with. I don't think it's going to be too amazing, but you do get the Dark Gift on top of it, which is quite nice, so that's why I'll be giving this card 2 stars. And then we have the Twisted Web Weaver, a 1 mana 1/3 beast. Whenever you play another minion you've already played, draw a card. So this can either be the second copy of it, or of course, because you're rogue, Shadow Step target, or other ways to bounce, which rogue has. And yeah, then it's pretty powerful, right? Like a 1 mana 1/3. If it already draws 1 card, it already feels kinda worth it. And as rogue, you can obviously keep Shadow Stepping cards and just keep drawing with them while you do that Shadow Step. But obviously also the card draw is somewhat limited because yeah, you need either the second copy of it or the Shadow Step, and then yeah, Shadow Step is also limited, so it can't be drawn too much. But there is definitely potential in this card to draw a few cards for just 1 mana. But yeah, also there's the downside, right, where yeah, early on it's probably not too playable, and then later on it might be have been stuck in your hand for a while because you didn't get second copies or Shadow Step. And Rogue already has so much card draw that it feels almost redundant to have even more card draw, but I just think it's a good card, so I'll be giving this one 3 stars. Then we have the Web of Deception, a 2 mana spell. Return a friendly minion to your hand to summon a 4/4 spider with stealth. So yeah, Breakdance is rotating, so we get a new way to bounce our minions, and this time it's a 2 mana spell. And yeah, this one is way worse than Breakdance, because Breakdance, well, yeah, technically it was worse with smaller minions. It was way better with bigger minions, and you also get Rush, which kind of was a really strong part of Breakdance. And it was only 1 mana, so yeah, in a lot of ways this card is worse, but we can expect the power level to go down, so comparatively it might not be too much worse. And if there's a lot of cards you actually want to be bouncing or build your deck around, this is probably a card you want to be running. And then we'll have 2 more cards that are extremely strong with more bounces. So yeah, I think this card will definitely see play. It's not as good as Breakdance or Shadow Step, but yeah, I think the fact that you want multiple bounces makes this pretty good. It's a lot better than Brewmaster, and I'll be giving this card 3 stars. And then one of the cards that benefit from multiple bounces is the Harbinger of the Blighted, a 2 mana 2/3. Whenever this enters your hand from the battlefield, summon 2 random 2-cost minions. So this is almost like a reverse battle cry. It has to go from the board to your hand. And this card obviously fits very well into Rogue, where yeah, you got a bunch of bounces and they work extremely well with this. Obviously, one of the things you could do is on turn 1, if you have an ideal hand, is coin this card, then Shadow Step it, then play it again, and then you prep the previous spell and you get another 4/4 and you get 4 2-drops. on turn 1, and yeah, that's probably going to beat most decks. So this card, if you consistently get it on 2, it's pretty solid, right? You get this Shadow Step it, but it does cost 2 cards, although again, it's rogue, so they have a lot of card draw. You can maybe make it work with that 1-drop to draw more cards, but it does fall off pretty hard later on in the game, because who cares about a few 2-drops on the board after like turn 5? It's very weak then, so it's really strong early on, but then yeah, later in the game you just hope you won't be drawing it. So I'll rate it in the middle, and I'll give it 3 stars. Then we have Renferal, the Malignant, a 3-mana 3/3 beast. Battlecry, trap 1 random card in your opponent's hand for a turn. Improved for each time you've played this. So trap means that they can't play that card for the next turn. And then yeah, each time you play this, so you Shadow Step it, play it again. That means it traps 2 cards, 3, and so on. So you can potentially lock out their opponent's entire hand besides the top deck. And yeah, that can be pretty damn annoying to face. But downside is that yeah, this card really needs those bounces like Shadow Step to work, because by itself trapping 1 random card really isn't worth it. Also, because it requires a bunch of bounces, you can't just play your Shadow Steps on the other cards early and then expect this card to be good later on. But since it's rogue, I think it's going to be pretty easy for them to consistently have a bunch of bounces for this in the mid to late game to lock out the opponent from responding to their boards. And I think this card will be very strong, so I'll be giving it 4 stars. Then we have the Tricky Satyr, a 3-mana 4/3 demon. Battlecry, get a copy of the lowest cost card in your opponent's hand. So yeah, sometimes this can be a coin, and then you get, what, a 2-mana 4/3? That's not amazing. And other times you probably get like a 1-cost card from your opponent. But yeah, again, it's one of those things that you pay 3 mana for this card to maybe get something useful. I feel like that kind of stuff just isn't worth it. Like, yeah, maybe in the late game, right, there's a Ceaseless, and you can copy that because it's 0 mana. But yeah, you're playing Rogue. Generally, you're not really trying to go for the very late game with those decks. So yeah, that's probably not going to happen very often. And early on, yeah, you play it on turn 3, and then yeah, you might get something that you don't want, and then you just spend 3 mana on a 4/3, and yeah, I don't think that's really doing anything for you. But yeah, I think this kind of card, just getting a random card that you might never want to use for 3 mana, just isn't good enough nowadays. So I'll be giving this 1 star. Then we have the Shadow-Cloaked Assailant, a 4-mana 3/5 demon. Battlecry, if you're holding one of the same cards as your opponent, shuffle theirs into their deck. So this is taking away 1 card from the opponent if you're holding the same. So it can just be, you know, in a Rogue Mirror, you can shuffle the Shadow Step, or it's one of those cards that you've stolen with other cards. Now, this card is somewhat targeted, but also not, because, yeah, you might not know if the opponent is holding a card, or there's multiple cards that are the same in both hands, and you only want to shuffle one, and then, yeah, you shuffle something else that they weren't going to play anyway. And yeah, then you just get 4 mana 3/5. Now, we used to have the Ghastly Gravedigger that did this, which was really strong, but not only was that 1 mana cheaper, although it required a secret, it also lets you see 3 cards your opponent had in their hand and lets you choose the card, which is just way stronger, because you get an info and you get to potentially like deny their next play. 4 mana is kind of a big investment for potentially doing nothing. So yeah, I think it's just going to be a bad card. I'll be giving this 1 star. Then we have Barbed Thorn, a 3 mana 1/3 weapon. Choose one, gain poisons this turn, or gain death rattle, deal 2 damage to all enemies. So 2 options. And the first option is, yeah, just a 1/3 weapon that kills 1 minion this turn. Yeah, I don't think it's that good. Like, yeah, you can kill like 4 or 5 half minion early on, but yeah, I don't think Rogue is really strong with that. Plus, you take the face damage. And the other option is the 2 damage AoE, so that's basically a Consecrate at the same mana cost. But yeah, you have to wait either 2 turns before it really hits the opponent's board, by which time the opponent obviously knows you have it, and they'll have prepared for it. Or yeah, you can play it on turn 5 and immediately use your hero power to proc it, and then you have a 5 mana Consecrate, which just doesn't really seem good at all, right? And you're playing Rogue. I don't think they're really struggling with boards. I don't see a lot of situations where you want to play either option, so I'll be giving this 1 star. And then the last card we have is a card that actually has a big mana cost on Rogue. There's not a lot of them. It's Ashamain, a 9 mana 7/7 beast. Battlecry, fill your hand with copies of cards from your opponent's deck. They cost 3 less. So yeah, this card, it doesn't really fit in most Rogue decks. Like, it's more of a Thief Rogue card. But yeah, I don't think that will be an amazing thing. However, where I can see this card you can play is decks that yeah, maybe draw fast, or just play a lot of the cards. And then usually, yeah, you get punished, right? Because you run out of cards if you just play purely for tempo and you didn't win yet. But then you can maybe play a card like this. You get a full hand, or almost a full hand. And yeah, all those cards, They cost 3 less as well, so a lot of them probably are immediately playable. And they have synergy with each other, so it can be a bit like a Hearthstone brew. Although, yeah, this one has that mana cheat on top of it. Again, it is a 9 mana card, and generally it's not that great in Rogue playing cards that cost a lot of mana. It is a full hand with discounted cards. It can't be that terrible. So I think I will see a little bit of play, and I'll be giving this 2 stars. And those are all the Rogue cards. What do you think of them? I already know I'm going to be dreading facing Renfarrell multiple times and just not being able to play the game, but hopefully it's not going to be too bad. So let me know in the comments what you think of it and what card you look forward most to playing. And if you want to support the channel, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and until next time.